although only just over 1/4 of its territory is truly arable. While much of the rest is steep mountains and dry plateaus, Turkey has still built an agricultural sector worth around $68 billion. From the hazelnut hillsides along the Black Sea, which supply 60 to 70% of global production, to the green tea fields of Rize, mountain honey, Angora goats raised for Mohair, and wheat flour mills exporting millions of tons every year, Turkey is turning the harshness of its terrain and climate into a global map of influential agricultural products. So how can a country with limited water and limited fertile land become a major production hub for so many important agricultural commodities? Let's explore it together in today's video on Terran Works. When people think of Turkey, they often picture the hot air balloons drifting across the skies of Cappadocia, the rocky valleys that resemble the surface of another planet, or the iconic blue Nazar charm that appears everywhere, from homes and shops to souvenir stalls. Yet behind these distinctive images lies a less noticed reality. Turkey did not build its agricultural sector on ideal farmland. Arable land accounts for only a little over 1/4 of the country's territory. Behind its famous farming regions is a harsh reality. Large areas are too steep, too dry, covered with thin, rocky soils, highly vulnerable to erosion, and short of water for easy cultivation. Deep in the interior, long summers, irregular rainfall, and poor water retention make irrigation not just important, but essential for survival. In Konya, one of the key agricultural regions of central Anatolia, excessive groundwater extraction and prolonged drought have even created massive sinkholes in the middle of farmland, serving as a stark warning that the land here is not only dry, but is also being drained from below. Yet despite these limitations, Turkey has built an agricultural sector worth around $68 billion. This achievement is not the result of perfect natural conditions, but of choosing the right crops for the right regions, expanding irrigation infrastructure, and managing every drop of water more efficiently. One of the ways Turkey deals with drought is by turning water into a technology-controlled system. In the southeast of the country, the Giyat Peat project is seen as the biggest symbol of this ambition. The project includes 22 dams, 19 hydroelectric power plants, and irrigation systems for around 1.8 million hectares of land in the Euphrates and Tigris river basins. The idea behind it is clear: bring water to hot, dry regions to grow cotton, wheat, corn, fruit trees, and vegetables. But the modern side of irrigation is not only found in giant dams. Turkey is gradually shifting from traditional flood irrigation to closed pipe systems, sprinkler irrigation, and drip irrigation. With closed pipe systems, water no longer has to flow through long open canals, which helps reduce losses from seepage and evaporation. With drip irrigation, water passes through plastic pipes, filters, pressure-regulating valves, and drip emitters before falling directly into the root zone of the plants. As a result, crops receive water exactly where they need it, instead of the entire field being soaked. In vineyards, orchards, and greenhouses, these systems are also combined with soil moisture sensors, weather stations, automatic pumps, and fertigation units. This means irrigation in Turkey is no longer just about bringing water into the field. It has become a precision management network, measuring the soil, tracking the weather, controlling pumps, filtering water, distributing pressure, and delivering every drop to the right plant. If there is one product that gives Turkey a special position in global agriculture, it is the hazelnut. The country usually supplies around 60 to 70% of global hazelnut production, with more than 700,000 hectares under cultivation. In 2024, Turkey's hazelnut exports reached more than 320,000 tons of kernels, generating around $2.6 billion. This means that many chocolate bars, confectionery products, ice creams, and praline fillings around the world may begin on the hillsides along the Black Sea. The heart of the hazelnut industry lies in provinces such as Ordu, Giresunspor, and Düzce. Many hazelnut orchards here are not located on flat fields, but stretch along steep mountain slopes, where the climate is humid, cool, and rainy. When harvest season arrives, In steep orchards, people still have to pick the nuts or collect fallen hazelnuts by hand because large machines are difficult to operate. But in gentler areas, some stages have been mechanized. Mowers clear the ground before harvest. Leaf blowers gather the nuts into rows. Vacuum machines or harvesters collect the nuts from the ground. Then, threshing machines help separate the nuts from leaves and the green outer husks. After harvest, the hazelnuts are sun-dried or placed in temperature-controlled dryers to reduce moisture, limit mold growth, and preserve kernel quality. Once dry enough, they are sent to factories for cleaning, sizing, cracking, and kernel extraction. Sieving machines, air blowers, and optical sorters continue removing empty nuts, broken kernels, dark kernels, and impurities. Finally, the kernels can be sold raw, roasted, chopped, ground into flour, pressed for oil, or processed into paste for the chocolate industry. Turkey is one of the world's largest honey-producing countries. In 2023, it produced around 114,000 tons of honey, thanks to its highly diverse ecosystems. Pine forests in the Aegean region, wildflowers across the Anatolian Plateau, chestnut forests along the Black Sea, and mountain valleys in the east. What makes Turkish beekeeping especially interesting is that many beekeepers do not keep their hives fixed in one place. Instead, they practice migratory beekeeping. When the flowering season begins in one region, the hives are loaded onto trucks and transported there. When the nectar source declines, they move to another area. As a result, bees can collect nectar from many different sources, producing wildflower honey, chestnut honey, pine honey, meadow honey, or honey from fruit orchards. The production process begins with inspecting the colonies, adding frames, and monitoring the health of the queen bee. When the honeycombs are full and sealed with wax by the bees, the beekeeper removes the frames from the hive. In modern facilities, they use electric or heated uncapping knives to remove the wax caps, then place the frames into a centrifugal extractor. This machine spins rapidly, forcing the honey out of the comb while keeping the wax frame intact, allowing the bees to reuse it. After that, the honey is filtered through mesh screens to remove wax particles, then transferred into stainless steel settling tanks. Finally, it is filled by machine into glass jars or large containers, labeled according to floral source, and sent to the market. What makes Turkish honey unique is that each region creates a different flavor. But the industry is also highly sensitive to climate. If drought lasts too long, plants produce fewer flowers and bees collect less nectar. So beekeeping in Turkey is not just about producing honey. It is also a constant journey following the flowering seasons across the country's map. One of the most distinctive images of Turkish agriculture is the Angora goat. This breed is closely associated with the Ankara region and is famous for its long, curly, and silky fleece. From this fleece, people produce mohair, a lightweight, lustrous, and durable natural fiber often used in sweaters, scarves, high-end textiles, and handmade products. Mohair was once a major source of pride for Turkey, but the industry has shrunk significantly compared with its golden age. In 1991, the country had more than 1.18 million Angora goats and produced around 1,379 tons of raw mohair. By 2024, the Angora goat population had fallen to around 202,000 head, with mohair production at about 339 tons. Even so, Turkey remains one of the important countries in the global mohair industry. What makes Angora goats special is their ability to adapt well to dry plateaus, mountainous areas, and nutrient-poor grasslands in central Anatolia. In places where crop farming is difficult because of water shortages or poor soil, goat raising becomes a way to make use of the landscape. Farmers usually graze the goats on pastures, provide extra feed in winter, monitor newborn kids, control parasites, and protect the herd after shearing because the goats are more vulnerable to cold at that stage. The process of making mohair begins with regular shearing. After shearing, the fleece is gathered and sorted by length, fineness, color, and cleanliness. Fiber from young goats is usually softer and finer, so it has higher value. The raw mohair is then pressed into bales and transported to factories. There, the fleece is washed to remove dust, grease, and impurities. Next come carding, combing, spinning into yarn, and then dyeing, weaving, or knitting into sweaters, scarves, fabrics, and fashion products. In this way, the Angora goat reveals a very different side of Turkish agriculture. It does not only produce food, but also creates valuable materials and high-end fashion products. When people think of Turkey, many think of Turkish coffee. But in everyday life, tea is actually the more popular drink. From restaurants, offices, and bus stations to family living rooms, small tulip-shaped glasses of tea appear almost everywhere. The center of Turkey's tea industry lies in Rize and the eastern Black Sea region. This area has conditions that are very different from much of the country's interior. The sea on one side, mountains on the other, high humidity, abundant rainfall, and green hillsides all year round. Thanks to this climate, Rize has become the most important tea-growing region in the country. In 2023, Turkey produced around 343,500 tons of processed tea, almost fully meeting domestic demand. Average tea consumption reached about 4.6 kilograms per person per year, while exports accounted for only a small share, at just over 5,000 tons. Tea plants in Rize are usually grown in dense rows along the hillsides. Farmers have to prune them regularly to keep the bushes low, stimulate young shoots, and make harvesting easier. Because of the steep terrain, many areas still rely on hand-picking or handheld tea-cutting machines with collection bags attached behind them. These machines help quickly cut the buds and young leaves from the surface of the tea canopy. After harvest, the tea leaves are quickly transported to factories for processing. The process usually includes withering, machine rolling to break down the leaf structure, oxidation to create the color and flavor of black tea, then drying and grading. Finally, the tea is packaged as loose-leaf tea, tea bags, or higher-end product lines. In western Turkey, the Aegean region is the center of one of the country's most traditional export products, Sultana raisins. These grapes are mainly grown in Manisa, Izmir, and Denizli, where the summers are hot, sunny, and dry, ideal conditions for natural drying. In the 2023-24 season, Turkey produced around 245,000 tons of Sultana raisins. By the 2024-25 season, although exports reached only about 153,000 tons, revenues still exceeded $546 million thanks to a sharp rise in prices. Even in the vineyard, growers have to control the variety, planting density, pruning, irrigation, and harvest timing. Grapes used for raisins are usually seedless varieties with high sugar content. When the bunches reach the right level of ripeness, workers cut them by hand to avoid bruising the fruit, then transfer them to the processing area. Before drying, in many places the grapes are dipped in a solution of potassium carbonate and olive oil. This coating thins the natural wax layer on the grape skin, allowing moisture to escape faster, shortening the drying time, and helping preserve a more attractive golden brown color. Once the grapes are dry, they are taken to factories for cleaning, stem removal, washing, size grading, and additional drying if needed. Modern processing lines also use color sorters, laser scanners, X-ray sorters, and metal detectors to identify damaged fruit, small stones, impurities, or foreign objects. Finally, the raisins are packed in bulk cartons or retail packaging, then exported to Europe, the United Kingdom, the Middle East, and many other markets. If hazelnuts are the brown gold of the Black Sea, then dried apricots can be seen as the treasure of Malatya. This is Turkey's most important apricot-producing region, usually accounting for around 80 to 85% of the country's dried apricot output and having a major influence on the global market. In 2024, Turkey's apricot exports reached around $475 million, with dried apricots accounting for about $400 million. What makes Malatya special is its climate. Hot, dry summers help apricots accumulate sugar, while the difference between daytime and nighttime temperatures gives the fruit a richer flavor. When the apricots ripen, farmers usually harvest them by hand or shake the branches so the fruit falls onto tarps, reducing bruising. The fruit is then sorted by size and ripeness. For bright yellow-orange dried apricots, the fruit is often treated with sulfur dioxide to preserve its color and extend shelf life. Naturally dried apricots, on the other hand, have a darker brown color and a deeper flavor. After treatment, the apricots are dried on trays, tarps, or drying yards under the sun. Once the fruit begins to shrink, workers remove the pits, press the apricots lightly into a flatter shape, and then continue drying them or move them into drying systems. At the factory, the dried apricots are washed, re-dried, size graded, and inspected using sieving machines, optical sorters, and metal detectors before being packaged for export. Wheat holds a very special place in Turkish agriculture because it is the main ingredient of bread, a food that appears almost every day in people's meals. But what is even more impressive is that Turkey does not only grow wheat for domestic consumption. The country has also developed into one of the world's leading centers for flour milling and flour exports. In 2024, Turkey exported around 3.02 million tons of wheat flour, worth about $1.16 billion. In the 2024-25 season, harvested wheat area reached around 7.25 million hectares, with production of about 19 million tons. Wheat is widely grown across the Anatolian Plateau, Central Anatolia, the southeast, and other drier inland regions. After being planted in autumn or early winter, the crop grows through the cold season and ripens from late spring into summer. During harvest, combine harvesters cut the wheat stalks, thresh the grain from the heads, and separate straw and impurities directly in the field. The grain is then unloaded through an auger into trailers or trucks, moving alongside the harvester. After harvest, the wheat is transported to silos or mills, where it is tested for moisture, protein content, and impurities. If needed, the grain is dried before storage. Inside the flour mill, wheat passes through cleaning machines, magnets, stone separators, air classifiers, and scouring systems. The grain is then conditioned with moisture, ground through multiple pairs of rollers, and sifted to separate fine flour, bran, and coarser particles. Finally, the flour is blended, quality tested, packed into bags, or pumped into specialized bulk tankers for delivery to bread factories, pasta plants, and export markets. In this way, Turkish wheat is not just a food crop, it is the foundation of a large processing industry. More than a decade ago, in Liguria, Italy, professional diver Sergio Gambarini posed a question that sounded almost absurd. If humans can dive beneath the sea to explore it, why couldn't they bring an entire garden down there as well? Inspired by this bold idea, he launched a project in 2012 to grow crops inside spherical greenhouses placed beneath the ocean's surface. Despite widespread skepticism in the early stages, the greenhouse system known as Nemo's Garden has not only survived, but continues to grow and evolve today. Today, at the pilot site off the coast of Noli, transparent biospheres are anchored to the seabed, located about 80 meters from shore, at depths ranging from approximately 4.5 to 11 meters. Instead of relying on soil beds, tractors, or pesticides, Nemo's Garden uses spiral growing towers, seed trays, sensors, cameras, and remote monitoring systems. Each biosphere can accommodate more than 100 planting sites and is equipped with multiple sensors that continuously track temperature, humidity, pressure, light levels, and other conditions essential for plant growth. The most remarkable aspect of Nemo's Garden lies in how it produces fresh water. Outside the biospheres is salty seawater, while inside each dome is an air-filled environment. As sunlight causes seawater to evaporate and temperature differences develop between the inside and outside of the dome, water vapor condenses on the inner surface of the biosphere, forming droplets of fresh water. This water is then collected, enriched with nutrients, and recirculated back to the plants. In other words, the ocean itself serves as a protective barrier, a natural temperature regulator, and a source of fresh water for the garden. The people who work at Nemo's Garden are known as agronauts, a name that reflects their unique role as both farmers and explorers in an extraordinary environment. When direct inspections are needed, they dive beneath the surface, enter the biospheres, and examine the plants tray by tray. When no one is inside, a network of cameras and sensors continues to transmit data to the control station on shore. allowing the operating team to monitor the garden almost continuously. Over years of experimentation, Nemo's garden has successfully grown a wide variety of small crops, including basil, mint, lettuce, cherry tomatoes, strawberries, and other culinary herbs. At certain stages, the biospheres housed nearly 800 plants, primarily for research, culinary use, and the production of aromatic ingredients. By 2025, the project had upgraded its entire pilot site with 9 new biospheres, introduced hydroponic nursery systems, developed microgreens for Michelin-starred restaurants, and expanded its research into mushrooms, aromatic plants, medicinal herbs, and other high-value commercial applications. For a long time, lobsters have been closely associated with the cold waters of the North Atlantic. Fishing boats setting traps off the coast of Canada, and expensive seafood platters served in high-end restaurants across the United States. But in recent years, a quiet transformation has been taking place across the seas of Asia. Rather than relying solely on wild catches, people have begun turning coastal bays into floating farms, where lobsters are raised in cages suspended directly in the ocean. In 2024, Vietnam operated approximately 280,500 lobster farming cages, producing more than 5,870 tons of lobster and generating an estimated export value of $430 million USD. The industry now contributes thousands of tons of production each year and has become an important part of the global premium seafood market. The farming process typically begins with juvenile lobsters, which are sorted by size before being placed into net cages located in sheltered bays. These areas are chosen for their stable salinity levels and water currents, strong enough to continuously circulate oxygen through each cage, creating suitable conditions for the lobsters to grow. Even a sudden change in temperature, salinity, or oxygen levels can impact an entire farm. For this reason, modern lobster farming operations use underwater sensors to monitor environmental conditions in real time, tracking everything from temperature and salinity to dissolved oxygen and pH levels. Some farms also deploy cameras beneath the cages to observe lobster behavior, monitor uneaten feed, and detect weak or slow-growing individuals at an early stage. This allows farmers to respond quickly to potential issues and maintain optimal growing conditions throughout the production cycle. Unlike many types of seafood that are processed shortly after being caught, farmed lobsters are typically sold live, making the harvesting process particularly delicate. Farmers usually schedule harvesting during the early morning or cooler periods of the day to minimize stress on the animals. The cages are slowly lifted from the water, and market-sized lobsters are carefully selected by hand. Each lobster is inspected for weight, shell condition, coloration, mobility, and overall health. Individuals that have not yet reached commercial size are returned to the cages to continue growing. Seaweed. Seaweed is one of the most important pillars of marine agriculture. According to the FAO, global seaweed aquaculture production has increased by roughly 1,000 times, growing from 34,700 tons in 1950 to 37.8 million tons in 2022. The vast majority of this production is concentrated in Asia, particularly in China, Indonesia, South Korea, and the Philippines. The cultivation process typically begins with anchors being secured to the seabed, followed by the installation of main cultivation lines supported by floating buoys at the surface. Seated ropes are then suspended beneath these lines. Along each rope, small seaweed seedlings are attached at carefully spaced intervals, allowing them sufficient room to grow as they absorb nutrients directly from the surrounding seawater. Seaweed grows by harnessing sunlight, ocean currents, and the natural nutrients present in seawater. Throughout the cultivation cycle, marine farmers mainly inspect the ropes, buoys, and anchors, monitor growth rates, and remove unwanted algae or marine organisms that attach themselves to the farming structures. Over the course of several months, tiny seaweed seedlings develop into long, dense, and heavy strands that sway beneath the surface like vast underwater green walls. When harvest season arrives, boats travel along the cultivation lines, while workers pull the seaweed ropes out of the water, cut the seaweed into bundles, and load them onto the vessels. Once brought ashore, the seaweed is washed, sorted, chopped, sun-dried, mechanically dried, or transported to processing facilities. Some of it is transformed into food products such as salads, soup, snacks, and ingredients for plant-based foods. The remainder is used in a wide range of applications, including organic fertilizers, animal feed, cosmetics, gelling agents, biodegradable packaging, and alternative materials designed to replace conventional plastics. As it grows, seaweed absorbs excess nitrogen, phosphorus, and carbon from the surrounding water. As a result, a seaweed farm is not only a source of food production, but also functions as a natural biological filter, quietly helping to improve water quality and support healthier marine ecosystems. With prices reaching more than $3,000 per kilogram, sea cucumbers have become an extremely valuable marine commodity, often referred to as the black gold of the ocean. However, enormous global demand, exceeding 22,000 tons annually, has placed increasing pressure on wild populations, pushing many natural stocks into a state of concern. To balance market demand with marine conservation efforts, many regions have begun developing sea cucumber farming operations in coastal waters, creating a more sustainable alternative to harvesting from the wild. The journey of sea cucumber farming begins in specialized hatcheries, where healthy broodstock are carefully selected. There, they are induced to reproduce in clean seawater under tightly controlled conditions, with temperature, salinity, oxygen levels, and aeration systems continuously monitored. Food sources such as spirulina and nutrient-rich microalgae are provided regularly to improve reproductive health and maximize larval survival rates. After approximately 2 to 3 months of nursery rearing, once the juvenile sea cucumbers are strong enough to adapt to a larger environment, they are transferred to coastal ponds with sandy, muddy bottoms, stable salinity, and carefully managed water conditions. In these protected environments, the sea cucumbers continue to grow naturally for around 12 to 18 months until they reach market size. When harvest season arrives, every step must be carried out gently and carefully, as sea cucumbers have soft, water-rich bodies covered by a delicate protective mucus layer that can be easily damaged. After being collected from the water, each sea cucumber is quickly rinsed with treated seawater to remove any sand, mud, and other impurities remaining on its surface. From there, the fresh harvest begins a new stage of processing, where it may be transformed into dried sea cucumbers, frozen products, nutritional powders, or high-value medicinal extracts.